Hello and welcome back again to My Own Worst Enemy. I got a quick unboxing for you today. Now this is Vive the Emperor from Blue Panther Games. So Blue Panther is publishing games now. You've probably heard that. This one is from designer Herman Luttman. This is a solitaire war game of the Battle of Waterloo, June 18th, 1815. Now this is the second edition. This says this is the second edition, but I don't think the first edition was ever published. I think what happened was White Dog Games was going to publish this, but then Herman changed the publishers. He went over to Blue Panther with Steve Jones, and so this is the second edition. So like I said, don't think there's a physical copy of the first edition. Maybe there's a playtest copy, who knows. So Vive the Emperor, this is, like I said, solitaire hex encounter war game depicting the Battle of Waterloo. You are playing as Napoleon, the culminating battle of your brilliant 100 Days campaign. You have successfully separated the two armies opposing you, the Anglo-Allied army under the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army under Field Marshal Blucher, and you have deployed Marshal Grouchy. Okay, so let's pause here for a minute because, I'm not going to play this game and not call him Marshal Grouchy. He's asking to be called Marshal Grouchy. So that's probably what I'm going to call him. I don't speak French, and French words are like, there's like 20 letters in a word that basically it's pronounced like dog. So Anyway, he's going to be Marshal Grouchy if I play this. I'm almost positive. With a large French force to pursue the recently defeated Prussians. On this day, you must now defeat basically the split armies is what they're saying. So you're going to play this thing. Your opposing armies are split. You've got your setup for this final day of Waterloo, and that's what this game is all about. Solitaire suitability, of course, is a 10 because this is a solitaire game. Complexity 5, which seems a little bit higher than what I would think it would be, but I don't put much faith in any of these ratings, honestly. And the older I get, the more I think that they're really the really complicated rules that are always touted as being just so complicated. If you spend a little time with them, I think you can crack most of them pretty easily. So game features, easy to use and unique bot opponent. And we'll take a look at that when we get inside here. And then, of course, counters and CRTs and all that good stuff. I'm not going to read the back of this anymore. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. Now, I'm hoping I did talk with Herman Luttman and Steve Jones from Blue Panther at the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly, and I'm hoping that the new counters from Blue Panther are in here because they were really fantastic looking counters. I'm going to set the lid aside, and there you go on top. We see the counters. Let's hold this off just for a second, though, because it looks like we get 6 big. These are pretty big D6, and I think they'll go into the dice tower. I hope they will. I've got a kind of a small dice tower, but they're very nice dice. So, these are larger than what I'm used to seeing in Blue Panther games, but very nice dice. They're not the pointy corners that actually hurt when you touch them. These look like they're going to roll pretty good, and they do, as you can see there. So always appreciate more dice, even though I've got tens of thousands. So let's hold off on the counters for just a brief minute, and we will go right into the rule book. Typical Blue Panther rule book, which is a good thing because it's sort of not a very glossy, but it's kind of in between a matte and a glossy, which I like to see because I do think that's just going to hold up better over time as you use these rule books. Looks like the index here is on the front, and we'll just flip through this really quick. There's the components, the counters, and so this is a draw activation marks. This is a chit pull type game, which I tend to like these days. I don't know. There's something. It's certainly easier to solitaire with the chit pull system, but I just that aside, if I were playing a 2-player game, I still kind of like the chit pull system. For now, that could change. Everything always changes when you're wargaming, right? Here's your activation phase, activating French units. See some terrain information there, and let's see rallying, close combat. Activating the Allied units, the Prussian units, the end phase. Prussian arrival, retreats, victory, and defeat. Looks like walled buildings will be victory points. Plain building hexes are victory points. Allied line of communications. Interesting. So those are victory points as well. Interesting looking victory there. So game setup. This is how we will, of course, set the game up. I'm not sure if, well, here you go. I was going to say, I'm not sure if there's other scenarios, but there are. Where is Grouchy? See, I said Grouchy, not Gruchet. And of course, the new Waterloo scenario, which is, you may opt to ignore the historical parameters of the French deployment instructions and set the French units up anywhere you wish. I really like to see this in these games. I mean, you know, you want to be able to play the Battle of Waterloo, and I'm sure some of you want to play it on rails where you're playing the Battle of Waterloo as it unfolds. But I'm more the type of the person that likes to have that be one possibility. You play the game and maybe you want to try something different. And this scenario allows you to do just that. So put the French forces up where you choose and see what happens. I think it's really neat to have that in a war game. Now this is interesting. There's a 2-player scenario. So I thought this was advertised as a solitaire only game. And I think it was on the cover. It is a solitaire war game. But so a 2-player scenario. If you have a second player wishing to play the game, simply do away with using the Anglo-Allied Prussian activation table. Okay, so here's another thing I love to see, and that's, yeah, you've got this solitaire bot in the game, and it's optional. So what this is saying, if I'm reading this correctly, is toss the bot aside and just have 2 players go at it. And that is, I love that, because more times than not, I'm going to put the solo bot aside and play two-handed anyway. It's more fun to me that way. I'm not trying to beat the game. I'm not trying to beat a player, or, you know, I want to hit more. It's more historical play that I want to see, and I just want the units to kind of go where I want them to and see what happens. Not all the time, but most of the time, I think. So it looks like there's just some additional victory stuff in here. So that is very interesting. Fixed start scenarios. So no rain. There's a historical start. So historical Prussian arrival scenario. All right, just cool stuff. So there's a lot more in this than just you're just playing the Battle of Waterloo solitaire. There's some other scenarios in here as well. Maybe a 2-player game too. We'll look at that when we get further into the box, I'm sure. Game credits designer, we already said, was Herman Luttmann. The developers are Fred Monzo and Kyan Heilman. Additional testing, Mark, John, and Alexander. Artwork and graphics, Tim Allen and Ryan Heilman. And of course, Blue Panther, who is doing wonderful stuff these days. I got to talk to Steve Jones at the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly, and awesome guy. I've talked to him before. I see him all the time at Origins and out there in the world as I go to conventions. He's just a really all-around great guy. And so is Herman. All right, Vive Emperor, this is the activation table. I suspect probably this is the bot that we're going to toss aside if we play 2-player like we were just told. So yeah, here we go. If the detachment activation marker is drawn, it tells you kind of what to do here. And it looks like this is a double-sided thing. So that is good. And then here we have the player aid card. There's also double-sided. Very nice cards, thick paper, command activation tables. And the sequence of play here looks fairly involved. I'll just kind of hold it up so we can all see that together. But usually when it's written in that detail, this is going to be a very handy, should be a very handy table indeed. And now we're going to get down to the map. Now this is a 17 by 22 inch map. This is a paper map. You do have the option to buy a canvas map that goes with this, and I'll show you that in just a second. So this is the paper map, and it is a very, very nice looking map. Very clear. I like the artwork. The raised terrain is very easy to see. The roads are easy to see. The hex numbers are easy to read. The French names are never easy to read, but they're easy to see. And of course, there's some forests, it looks like. Turn track over here. You've got marker boxes, and that is it. Now let me show you this canvas map, which yes, I did also acquire. It is the same size as the paper map. One thing I will note, and this is the only advantage to the paper map that I can see, you'll note that the colors are a little crisper on the paper maps. On the canvas map, you're printing on canvas, so some of the colors are not going to be as bright as they would be on paper. So the only advantage the paper map has is the color is a little more vivid. But the canvas map is awesome because it lays flat. So this map, you put the paper map out, you're going to get some pooching. You'll have to put plexi over it or something if that's what you like to do. But the canvas map is nice and flat. It's not going anywhere. In fact, I can rub on it. It's this, what do you call this thing? This play mat that's on the table. It's not going to move. So I'll move a little bit, but not much. I like that. So probably, most likely, we'll use the canvas map when I do a playthrough. And now let's look at these counters. So this looks like the French we grabbed right off the bat here. And I'm just going to punch out one of these counters. So these counters, I'm going to hold these up. So they're thicker. They're the thick Blue Panther counters that we're used to seeing from Blue Panther. Front and backs, they're printed nicely. I'm going to punch one of these out to see if these are the newer counters. I'm noticing some, you can see where there's some laser char marks where these things were actually cut, but you're not going to get that black soot that you used to get on some of the older games that were laser cut. There's no soot. I know you can see those char marks, but that's not anything to worry about on these counters. I'm going to punch out these counters. So I was hoping, I don't think these are the new counters that Steve was showing me at the convention, because I still see some nibs on those. They're not as pronounced as in the past. And maybe he did mention there were thicker and thin counters that he was creating, that maybe this is, and if you look at that from the top, that's really not that bad. So maybe this is one of the newer thick counters. So there are some nibs, but they're not nearly as pronounced as they used to be. So these are, again, very nice looking counters from Blue Panther. And I'm going to lay this down and push that right back in. And there you go. It's nice and back in the counter sprue. Here's another counter sheet. We will hold this up. This looks like it is the Prussians and the English. Let's take a look at those. The back sides. And finally, the third counter sheet. So really it's about maybe like a full regular size counter sheet of counters, but these are the larger counters, thicker counters, very nice counters indeed. So those are really nice looking counters. All right, so that's it. I wanted to do a quick unboxing of this one because I think this might be the next game I get to the table. Some of you have been watching. I was doing a playthrough of Global War from Ben Madison and Wes Ernie. I'm almost all but decided to stop that game. I think I'm going to have to, I think what I might do is conduct a poll in the community tab on the channel. And I'm probably going to put up 4 Ben Madison games and let you, the community, decide which one I should actually do a playthrough through. Now, of course, I will put Global War in that poll. That'll be one of the choices, because I do feel like I need to get back to that and play through it. That is a really intriguing game. I think it is a solitaire, as far as a solitaire game goes, a lot of really neat stuff going there. So look for that poll coming up pretty soon. But I think, yeah, this might be the next one I get to the table. I'm not sure. I've got another special game and a special guest that I'm lining up to talk about. And if that comes through, then that's what you'll probably see next, or if not next, right after whatever it is I do next. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because I am going to be making some changes, and we do have some new and exciting stuff coming up. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here next time.